Welcome to your favorite #1 technology show on TV. You know how we do it. My name is MD Tiamiyu, and the show is Tech In, Tech Out. It's the new segment on your technology show where we bring you the updates from the technology world, the local and the foreign. Before I move into the interview segments where we bring in professionals into the studio to come and join us dissect an issue of importance in the technology ecosystem. And after that, we are going to be running through some very, very amazing technological tips and tricks that will turn around your experience like this. Don't go anywhere. The show is just about to begin. It's your own MD Tiamiyu, and the show is Tech In, Tech Out. I bring you news from the local scene. The Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has said that its candidates may soon start writing their examination from home. Seriously? And again, I'll be highlighting the role of women in the technology ecosystem. So we'll be profiling fantastic women in the technology field. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back with the full news in just a jiffy. The program is Tech In, Tech Out. From the local scene, the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board has said recently that their candidates may soon start writing their exams from home. In a statement released by Dr. Fabian Benjamin, who is actually one of the spokespersons of JAMB, he said that candidates may start their entry examinations by writing the exams from the comfort of their homes using mobile technology. Benjamin, who disclosed this to newsmen while speaking recently on a radio program, said the board is already considering options to make this work of mobile technology be available for the needs of their candidates. So they are planning to deploy this service very, very soon, and they're making investment into it. According to his own words, we are thinking of open book examinations or allowing candidates to write the examinations from their houses. Once we get the required technology, we can do it. And I believe that actually JAM can do it. However, critics have said that some local government councils, which are the LGAs, do not have computer-based tests examination centers. And then how will JAM be able to run with this particular idea? And even the few who have CBT centers are already overcrowded, forcing candidates to travel to other towns for the exam. As we know, ladies and gentlemen, more than 1.5 candidates registered for the JAMB examination in the year 2018. And so we are looking forward to this particular idea that is being explored by JAMB, and we can only wish them best of luck. And on the news today, before I go, we highlight the contributions of women in the technological ecosystem in Nigeria. The technology sector is quite a male-dominated environment, having a lot of masculinity in it. In Nigeria, the technology industry is still largely dominated by men. But the good news also is that there are lots of women who are now springing up in the ecosystem, and it's such a wonderful development. In commemoration of the International Women's Day that happened in March, according to a study, by 2020 there will be 1.4 million computer science related jobs around the world, and much of this will be taken by the men folk, but with a lot of encouragement we are going to be having female I.C.T entrepreneurs and professionals too. The first of them is our own Florence Seriki. If you do not know Florence Seriki, you better listen now, because Florence Seriki of blessed memory used to be a legacy setter. She contributed so much to the technology industry in Nigeria. Florence was the founder of Omatech. Omatech is actually Nigeria's first and indigenous computer manufacturing company. Talking about a company that was established in 1987 by Madam Florence Seriki. She was known as a trailblazing entrepreneur whose entrepreneurial dexterity in the technology school space puts Nigeria on the global map, not just the foreign, not just the local scene. It actually put Nigeria on the global map before the activities of Yabacon Valley sprang up. Mrs. Florence Seriki won a good number of laurels to our own name in recognition of our contributions to the development of the technological ecosystem in Nigeria and Africa at large. Florence's zeal and passion for the industry pushed her to produce IT tools massively for the Nigerian government's computer-assisted program under the Kani Computer Acquisition Program for Nigerian civil servants as part of the efforts to re-engineer the public service for goodness. Through Omatech ingenuity, Seriki created massive youth employment and empowerment in the Nigerian technological industry. She is one big woman that we are going to miss in the technology industry. And number 2 on my list of women to highlight in this segment is Omobola Johnson, talking about the former minister of I.C.T in Nigeria. Omobola Johnson's immense contribution to the industry resounds beyond the I.C.T sector. You want to believe this? In 2011, Johnson was appointed as the Minister of Communications after 26 meritorious years of service in Accenture. She entered the public sector as a minister with deep insight of the industry and an awareness of how policy and strategies could come up to hype the game of the technological ecosystem. Under Madam Omobola Johnson's watch, Nigeria launched a consolidated entry into the satellite communication industry with NICOMSAT IR to complement the series of fiber connectivity backbone infrastructure initiatives designed to deepen broadband penetration in the country, now up to 22%. And since she left the office in 2015, she has extended her turf for startups, and currently she is the lead general partner at TLCom Capital, a venture capital firm leading communication work in Nairobi, Lagos, and London. Omobola Johnson has always been the vanguard of promoting ICT innovations in Nigeria. She midwifed the establishment of the popular Idea Hub in Yaba, Lagos, when she was the communication minister. A lot of kudos to women in the technological industry. A lot of kudos to Madam Omobola Johnson for setting a good pace for other women. That's it for the news. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back with a personal interview where we're going to be talking about the National ICT policy, or a lack of it. It's still your show, Tech In. Check out on Aleeftv. Stay tuned. Nice to have you back. This is still your show, your number one technology show on TV. You know how we do it on this program, Tech In, Tech Out. In this segment of the show is a segment where we get very personal. We'll bring in a resource person to help us dissect a particular issue in the technological ecosystem. Today, I have a very amazing fellow in the studio with me. I have Mr. Timi Olagunju, who we all know as Timi the Law. He is a fellow of the Presidential precinct, being a participant of the Young African Leadership Initiative in the year 2015. He is a cyberspace lawyer, and today he joins me to discuss the national ICT policy in Nigeria. Today, you'll be discussing from the point of view of national ICT policy. So I am tempted to want to ask you, is there a national ICT policy, so to speak, in Nigeria?
Well, the truth about it is that there is actually a national ICT policy, but the policy was done in 2015 and was supposed to run for 5 years. So at 2017, it should have packed up its bag and renewed. But something was done by this current administration, which is the I.C.T roadmap. So the I.C.T roadmap is not necessarily the ICT policy, but continues from where the national ICT policy has stopped from. So it's like building on the foundation. And if the foundation be destroyed, what can the makeup artist do?
So let me not digress too much, because that's your quote. If the foundation be destroyed, what can the makeup artist do? I think it's very powerful. We'll talk about that later. Who is responsible for putting together the national ICT policy? I know there is a setup part, there is an enforcement part, and so who are the key agencies that we're talking about on this subject?
Yes. So when it comes to the provision of the policy in itself, right? By legal parlance and policy parlance, in the current state of Nigeria, the Ministry of Communication, is particularly saddled with that responsibility. And then the implementation is supposed to flow across the different sectors. You have at the telecommunications level, you have the NCC, right?
Which is
the National Communications Commission. Then also at the ICT level, you have NIDA.
The National Information Technology Development Agency.
Exactly. And then you have at the broadcasting level, you have NBC. That's
the National Broadcasting
Commission.
Commission.
But then, frankly speaking, for what works for Nigeria, an implementation approach that takes into cognizance our ability to also incorporate other stakeholders. Like, for example, the ICT policy should be tilted towards skill development, but you need education to achieve that. So you need the Ministry of Education to be key into that particular framework. Also, the ICT policy also involves science. So you need the Ministry of Science and Technology. It also involves medicine. But so far what we've seen is that the Ministry of Communication has been more of the boarding carrier. They also must be key players, boarding carriers, in drafting, providing an ICT policy that works for them. For example, there is no sense in telling the Ministry of Communication to provide an ICT policy in education for the Ministry of Education, where the Ministry of Education should be saddled with the responsibility of providing the ICT policy that works for it. So you have square peg in square holes rather than square peg in round holes.
Timi, what really can you say we have achieved as a nation? So far, so good with our policy system, or what have we lost?
Frankly speaking, right, the current ICT policy that we've had has not really delivered maximal results. So the point there is this: as a design thinking consultant, I'm always very big on the issue of empathy. We need policies that work for Nigerians, not necessarily policies that are top-bottom and bottom-top. But top-bottom, yes, but bottom-top policies. Policies that come from research, qualitative and quantitative research carried out on what the key needs of the people are, right? Those are the kind of policies that we need that can work for Nigeria. So the ripple effect of those policies can work for people at the local level rather than the top only.
So I do agree with you about having policies at these different levels. But Timi, do you think that once this happens and we have an ICT policy at the Ministry of Education, an ICT policy at the federal, state and local government, would there not be a conflict of policies? How do we now work to ensure that all of these policies work in harmony for the common good of the people and national development?
Now, very interesting point of view. The truth about it is this: we cannot allow, you see, specialization is an old term, but it's also very important that people, the best of people, focus on what they are good at doing, right? That leads to productivity.
Yeah.
So if you take a medical doctor, for example, and put a medical doctor in courts, the medical doctor may not perform as much as a lawyer should because he's not trained for that environment.
Yes.
And so when you have an I.C.T policy, an I.C.T policy has different moving parts. You have the head of the policy, the leg, the stomach. It's like the parts of the human body. And so the I.C.T policy for education is best driven by specialists in the Ministry of Education, best drafted by them and driven by them, rather than the Ministry of Communication drafting an I.C.T policy for the Ministry of Education.
Where would be, how would the harmony be achieved?
Yes, the harmony will, you see, what we could have is that, you see, we do not necessarily need harmony in the context of harmony of policy. What we need is the harmony of specialization.
Okay.
You know, and so far we don't have that harmony because, you see, the Ministry of Communication says, okay, we have an I.C.T policy in education. We want every child to be, you know, internet compliant and the likes and all that. And then the Ministry of Communication comes and takes that policy and tries to run with it. You know, sometimes they even come out with their own different from that because they are the ones on the field. They know what works. And so because of that purpose, most times the implementation gap is always there. For example, Singapore, right? You have a situation where Mauritius, which Singapore is number one when it comes to I.C.T in the world. It's good to state that, yeah.
It's good.
Mauritius also, which is an African country, is number one in Africa. And Mauritius copied its policies or tailored its policies with a little adaptation here and there with that of Singapore, right? And this is what they did. They discovered that the taxi drivers that take people from the airports down to their hotels are very powerful. So they came up with a way of training the taxi drivers on how to discuss investment in I.C.T. with passengers that they take from the airport. And so when the taxi drivers discuss these policies with these guys, and you know, they say, okay, so who can I talk with? The taxi driver already has the number of the person that he can talk with to discuss with on further movement. That's why Mauritius seems like the I.C.T investment destination
In Africa.
Primarily because they understood the top-bottom approach to policy formulation. And that is very important. Every moving part needs to be carried along, not necessarily the Ministry of Communication only coming out with a grand I.C.T policy in paper and not necessarily working with other component parts to work out something that works for Nigeria.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been having a very exciting time with Timi Olagunju, Timi the Law. Before I allow Timi go, I have just one last question. Timi, as a cyberspace lawyer, I know there's a role people have to play in making sure the national I.C.T policy in Nigeria works, no matter what it looks like. So what should people do? Is there a document somewhere that our viewers can maybe download and read? Because if you're not aware of something, it's tough for you to follow through it. So what is the role of the Nigerian populace in making sure if the government decides to upgrade the national I.C.T policy, it would work? If they do not want to upgrade it and leave it the way it is, how can people interface and interpret the national I.C.T policy that we have as a nation?
Well, the truth about it is the policy of the government is an action of government. Is a step that the government wants to take towards a particular subject or issue. Right? So the best way to see, for the people to see policy work is to see results. And that brings us back to the government. The government, we need to find a way to come out with policies that work in the I.C.T space, particularly from the local government to the state government and then the federal level, serving more as a supervisory oversight function on these policies, such that the results are visible. The market woman can say that, oh, because of the use of this technology or the other, my life became much easier, right? That is the best way in which results. But for those who want to read up the I.C.T policy, you could check it online, you know, and then read also the I.C.T roadmap, you know, which to a large extent has been a failed document so far. However, we need to start translating beyond documents and paperwork into results, because evidence is the end of argument.
Evidence is the end of argument. We've been meeting with Timi Olagunju, Timi the Law, and we've been able to pick away a couple of points around interfacing and interpreting the National ICT policy in Nigeria. As you know, I would do it on this show. When we go for this break and come back, I'll be sharing with you a couple of tips and tricks that will change your technological experience like this. This is your number one technology show on TV. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. It's still your show. Tech in, tech out. Ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you back. Glad to know that you are still tuned to your number one favorite technology show on Aleeftvng, Tech In, Tech Out. My name is MD Tiamiyu, and this is that segment where I share with you technological tips and tricks that will turn around your digital experience like this. The tips I'm about to share today are Google search tips. And look at this, for example. Do you know that you actually can search the net with not just text, but with images? Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful thing. Let's say you saw a shoe on someone and you want to know where the shoe comes from or where you can buy your own. All you need to do is take a picture of that shoe and you can search the net with that picture. How do you do that? When you go to Google search, the general Google search service searches with text, but there's a dedicated server at Google that helps us to analyze images and brings back images. It is on images.google.com. So instead of going to google.com, you make it very faster and more efficient searching for pictures by going straight to images.google.com. And when you get there, there are about 2 ways you actually can do this. Before you click on the search button, you actually can drag and drop the image you want to search with into the search box. How do you do that? You go to any of your folder, ensure your browser is open, Google Images is open. How do you identify this? You see it as Google with images on that. It's written Google Images on the screen, as you can see it. So you go to where the picture is on your desktop and drag it and dump it into that search box. What happens next? Google gets to work on your behalf. It searches everywhere on the internet to see where that picture exists, and it brings you back links and more information about how you can reach the source or some other places where that picture exists. And guess what again? Most of these things are FREE, very, very free. I hope that you're going to enjoy it when you try it, and it's going to help your digital experience. That's it for tips and tricks today on your favorite technology show on Aleeftvng. Tech in, tech out. You know I can't go like that. I want to give you a quote quickly, and today's quote is by Larry Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle. He says, and I quote, "I had all the disadvantages required for success." I have all the disadvantages required for success. It's been a wonderful and amazing time with you. I'm your host, MD Tiamiyu. Thank you for joining me, and remember to tune in next week. It's your favorite number one technology show on Aleeftv. Tech in, tech out. Till next week that I come your way, stay digital.